Welcome to the deep dive. So today we are exploring a wildly frustrating paradox, like why your incredible world-building human brain is just, well, killerly bad at predicting what will actually make you happy in the future.
It's honestly a huge flaw in our wiring.
Right. And we're pulling from a pretty comprehensive stack of research today, specifically centering on Daniel Gilbert's groundbreaking work, Stumbling on Happiness.
Yeah, we're going to get into effective forecasting, memory, and this thing called the psychological immune system.
Which is fascinating. But to kick things off, I want you, the listener, to imagine something for a second. Imagine being conjoined to another human being at the forehead.
Oh, wow. Yeah, just diving right in.
Right in. You share a blood supply, you
Yep.
share a part of the skull, you basically spend every single moment of your life locked face to face with this other person.
Which, I mean, most of us hearing that immediately assume it's a medical tragedy.
Totally. So why do Lori and Reba Chappell, who are conjoined twins who have lived this way their entire lives, why do they categorically refuse any kind of separation surgery?
It's just wild to think about.
It is. Like Reba, who's this somewhat shy teetotaler, she actually has an award-winning country music album. And she
Yeah.
was once asked about surgery. Her response was, why would you want to do that? For all the money in China, why?
Right.
And meanwhile, her sister Lori is super outgoing, works in the hospital, loves strawberry daiquiris, and they both report being joyful, playful, and optimistic.
And that total disconnect, like our absolute horror versus their actual happiness, that is the perfect entry point for what we're unpacking today.
Yeah.
Because when we hear about the Chappell twins, we experience this intense cognitive dissonance. Our immediate reaction is just utter disbelief.
Because we can't fathom it.
Exactly. Because we are using a very specific biological tool to judge their lives, which is our imagination. It's essentially this, well, it's like a frontal lobe time machine.
In Time Machine, right.
Yeah, it allows us to simulate futures we haven't actually experienced. So we imagine being conjoined, we feel horror in that simulation, and then we just, project that horror onto their objective reality.
But the Time Machine is broken.
It is fundamentally broken. We simply cannot accurately simulate how we will feel in conditions we haven't personally lived.
So we are projecting our current imagined despair onto their actual Tuesday mornings.
Yes.
But, if we're going to figure out how to stop making terrible predictions for our own futures, we have to start with the baseline problem. Like, how do we even define happiness?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because if Lori and Reba say they're happy, we don't really have the machinery to argue with them, right?
No, we don't. Defining happiness is like, imagine trying to explain the color yellow to an alien at a pub.
Okay, an alien at a pub.
Yeah, an alien who entirely lacks the biological machinery to see color. You can tell this alien, hey, yellow is electromagnetic radiation with a wavelength of around 580 nanometers.
Right, giving them the physics.
Exactly. You can point to a school bus, or a lemon, or a rubber duck. But you are just pointing to the objects that cause the experience.
You aren't giving them the feeling of yellow.
Exactly. Subjective states are completely irreducible. Nothing you say can substitute for the actual firing of neurons that produces the internal feeling of yellow. And, well, happiness operates by that exact same rule. It's an irreducible, subjective experience.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if I put myself in the listener's shoes right now, the immediate pushback is pretty obvious.
Sure.
If the conjoined twins are happy, isn't it just because they don't know what they're missing? Like they've never done a cartwheel by themselves or gone on a solo road trip. So their internal scale for happiness is just totally calibrated differently than ours.
Right. And psychologists actually have a name for that. They call it the language squishing hypothesis.
Language.
Yeah. The idea is that maybe the twins and you actually feel the exact same baseline level of mundane pleasure when, say, someone hands you a slice of birthday cake.
Okay.
But because their experiential background is supposedly limited, they squish their language. They give that cake an 8 out of 10 on the happiness scale because it is literally the best thing they have ever felt.
Whereas I might rate it a 4 because I've, gone skydiving or something.
Exactly. You've experienced the thrill of a roller coaster or a solo backpacking trip, so your scale is wider.
But there's another perspective in the research that I think is far more relatable and honestly far more dangerous for our daily decision-making.
The experience stretching hypothesis.
Yes, experience stretching. Think about it this way. When I was a teenager, I learned to play the acoustic guitar. And playing this really basic, sloppy 3-chord rock song in my bedroom, it brought me an immense 10 out of 10 level of pure joy.
Oh, totally. We've all been there with a new hobby.
Right. But now, years later, After playing in actual bands and discovering complex jazz and blues, strumming those same exact three chords feels completely boring.
The physical experience of playing the chords hasn't changed at all.
No, I have changed.
Right. Or consider someone who deeply loves watching a beautiful Hawaiian sunset, just a perfect moment. But then on one particular evening, they watched that sunset while smoking an incredibly rare, fine Cuban cigar.
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah, the experience is transcendent. But the danger of that transcendence is that the sunset alone is now permanently diminished.
Oh, wow.
It feels somehow ruined without the cigar. Our past experiences stretch our capacity, and they permanently alter our baseline for happiness.
Which means the twins aren't squishing their language at all. When they say 8, they mean exactly what you mean when you say 8.
Precisely. They are simply capable of experiencing an 8 from everyday moments.
Whereas the rest of us have stretched our baseline so much that we now require, like, a Hawaiian vacation and a rare cigar just to feel that exact same level of baseline joy.
Yeah, you cannot untether yourself from your past. And that's the first major roadblock in predicting our future happiness. We try to look forward, but we are looking through the permanent, superglued contact lenses of our past experiences.
Oh, super glue contact lenses. I like that.
Ah.
So our past permanently distorts our baseline. But life isn't just about looking backward. What happens when we try to make a decision right now in the present moment for our future selves?
Well, this is where a phenomenon called presentism completely hijacks the process.
Presentism.
Yeah. The human brain operates on a very strict reality-first policy. It prioritizes your present physical and emotional state above absolutely everything else.
Right.
It is incredibly difficult, almost impossible, for us to imagine a future feeling if it directly contradicts our current physical reality.
Oh, man. I know this one intimately. If you want a perfect real-world example, just try going grocery shopping immediately after eating a massive Thanksgiving feast.
The worst idea.
It is. You are wandering the aisles with a completely distended stomach.
Yeah.
And absolutely everything on the shelves looks unappealing.
Yep.
You end up buying, like, paper towels and maybe some sparkling water for the rest of the week because your brain literally cannot simulate the concept of future hunger while your stomach is actively full.
It's so true. And to prove how powerful that reality-first policy is, researchers actually went to a gym and asked people to imagine they were lost in the woods without food or water. And they asked them to predict which would be more unpleasant, hunger or thirst.
While they're at the gym.
Right. For the people who were asked before their workout when they were perfectly comfortable and hydrated, only 61% predicted thirst would be worse.
Which makes sense. You can survive longer without food than water, but it's a toss-up.
Exactly. But for the people asked immediately after running on a treadmill, a staggering 92% predicted thirst would be worse.
Because they were currently standing there sweating and thirsty.
Yes. They couldn't separate the reality of their current dry mouth from the hypothetical lost in the woods scenario.
That is wild.
And the underlying mechanics of the brain actually explain why this happens. Imagining a visual scene uses the exact same visual cortex as actual sight.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and imagining a song uses the auditory cortex. So when you try to pre-feel the future, say, trying to imagine how much you'd enjoy eating spaghetti for breakfast tomorrow, your brain attempts to run a simulation using your sensory systems.
Oh, I see.
But if you are currently full, those systems are already occupied, processing your current reality. Your present state just overwrites the prediction. The brain effectively says, I can't imagine hunger right now. The sensory channel is busy being full.
Okay, but hold on. Let me push back on that a bit. Why do we even need to run a simulation? Can't we just bypass the imagination entirely and rely on our memory?
How do you mean?
Like, I know for a fact I was hungry yesterday morning.
Oh, okay.
I remember it. So I can logically predict I will be hungry tomorrow morning, completely, regardless of how full I feel right now.
It seems like the logical workaround for sure, but our memory is arguably just as compromised as our imagination.
Really?
Yeah. Consider a study where researchers showed volunteers a very specific color swatch. It was this unique shade of yellow. They showed it for just 5 seconds.
Okay.
Half the group then spent 30 seconds verbally describing the color in detail. The other half just sat there in silence.
Just looking at nothing.
Right. Then, when asked to pick that original color out of a lineup just 30 seconds later, 73% of the non-describers got it right.
That's pretty good.
But only 33% of the people who described the color could identify it.
Wait, talking about the color actually destroy their memory of it?
Yes, the verbal description overwrote their actual memory of the visual experience. They didn't remember the raw data of the color. They remembered their own flawed, clunky words about the color.
Wow.
And we do this with our internal emotional states all the time.
And it doesn't just happen with colors or, spaghetti. It happens with deeply held beliefs, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, look back at the 1992 U.S. presidential election.
Right.
We're just impartially reporting the data here. But researchers track supporters of Ross Perot.
Right, this is a classic example.
They measured exactly how these supporters felt when Perot abruptly dropped out of the race in July. And they were sad, angry, totally devastated.
Which is to be expected.
Right. But then Perot re-entered the race and ultimately lost in November. When researchers asked those same loyal supporters in November to recall how they felt back in July, they retroactively remembered feeling much less sad and angry than they actually reported at the time. Their present emotional state in November, having stayed loyal to the end, completely overrode their memory of their past devastation.
It's incredible, which leaves us in a very precarious position for long-term planning, right?
Yeah, I could say so.
If our present state hijacks our imagination and our memory is essentially a flawed, constantly overwritten reconstruction, how on earth do we plan for a future that unfolds over years or decades?
Right, because life isn't just about what I'm going to eat for breakfast tomorrow. I'm trying to figure out where to live next year or, what career I want in 10 years. Time is a huge factor.
Time is highly abstract, and because the human brain struggles with abstraction, we rely on a spatial metaphor to understand it.
A spatial metaphor.
Yeah, we picture time like a physical space. Think about a timeline on a chalkboard. The past is on the left, the future is on the right. We lay it out like a buffet table.
Okay, I can visualize that.
But treating time like a physical space leads to terrible, self-sabotaging decision-making, particularly when it comes to the concept of variety.
Okay, let's set up a scenario to see how this plays out in real life. Imagine you and a friend go out to a chic, ridiculously expensive restaurant.
Nice.
You look at the menu. You really want the partridge, which, let's say, gives you 50 hedons, which is just a fictional mathematical unit of pleasure we're using here.
Right, 50 hedons.
Your second choice is the venison gumbo, which gives you 40 hedons. Now, you don't want to be weird and order the exact same dish as your friend, so you order the partridge, your friend orders the gumbo, and you agree to share.
So what's fascinating here is that choosing variety in this specific immediate scenario actually makes mathematical sense.
Really?
Yes, because of a mechanism called habituation.
Habituation, okay.
If you are consuming these meals simultaneously, sitting at a table, that first bite of partridge gives you immense pleasure. But by the 11th consecutive bite of partridge, the pleasure drops significantly because your taste buds and your brain adapt.
They get bored.
Exactly. At that exact moment, switching to your first bite of gumbo will actually yield more hedons than continuing with the habituated partridge.
So the cliche holds up. Variety is the spice of life.
When consumption is simultaneous, absolutely. But here is where we fall into the trap.
Oh.
Let's change the scenario. The maitre d' is so impressed by you that he offers you one free meal a month for the entire next year.
Wow. Okay, best restaurant ever.
Right. But the catch is you have to write down your order for all 12 meals right now, tonight. What do most people do?
Oh, I know what I'd do.
They order the partridge for month 1, the gumbo for month 2, maybe a risotto for month 3. They introduce variety.
Well, yeah, because sitting there looking at the calendar, nobody wants to eat the exact same thing 12 times in a row. It feels totally redundant.
But mathematically, it is a massive mistake.
Wow.
Because when consumption is slow, when these meals are separated by entire weeks, habituation doesn't happen.
All right.
Your palate completely resets. Month after month, that first bite of partridge will always be a 50 on the pleasure scale. The gumbo will always be a 40.
Wow.
So by choosing variety over a long timeline, you are actively choosing a 40 when you could have had a 50. You are guaranteeing that you will be mathematically less happy.
That is, okay, so if you are listening to this right now, stop applying the phrase variety is the spice of life to things separated by vast amounts of time.
Yes.
If you find a vacation spot you absolutely love or a local restaurant meal that is a 10 out of 10, do not force yourself to try an inferior option next month just for the sake of variety.
Exactly. You're just artificially lowering your own happiness because your brain is mapping times like items spread out on a buffet table.
That is mind-blowing.
And our profound misunderstanding of time leads directly into our next major cognitive failure.
Let me pose a scenario to you.
Okay, hit me. Imagine you are walking to a concert and you realize you lost a $20 bill from your wallet.
Annoying.
Yeah, but you still really want to go to the show, so you walk up to the box office, sigh, and pay $20 for a ticket.
Yeah, totally. It's just bad luck. I'd still buy it.
Now, alternate scenario. You already bought a $20 ticket in advance. You walk up to the venue, reach into your pocket, and realize you lost the physical ticket.
Oh, no.
Do you go to the box office and spend another $20 to buy a replacement?
Honestly, I'd probably just go home. I would be furious.
Right. Most people refuse to do it. But logically, it makes absolutely zero sense.
Wait, it doesn't.
No. You are out exactly $20 either way. Your net worth is identical.
Right.
Why do you happily buy the ticket in the first scenario but storm off in the second?
Because it feels like I'm paying $40 for a $20 experience.
Which reveals the comparison trap. We do not judge value based on absolutes. We judge it based on relative differences.
Okay, explain that.
In the first scenario, the concert has no past. You lost a random piece of paper, and now you are comparing the cost of the concert to other things you could do with that $20 right now.
Right.
But in the second scenario, the concert has a past. You are comparing the current cost of seeing the show to the previous cost. You feel cheated by the universe, so you sabotage your own evening rather than pay twice.
Oh, man. Retailers absolutely weaponize this against us, too.
Constantly.
There's a classic experiment involving dictionaries. Have you seen this one?
The wacky Bob's Camera Store kind of setup.
Yeah, exactly. If you offer a group of people a dictionary with 10,000 words in pristine, perfect condition, they'll bid about $24 for it.
Sounds reasonable.
Right. If you offer a totally separate group a dictionary with 20,000 words, so double the words, but it has a ripped, torn cover, they bid $20. The pristine condition wins out when people judge them separately.
Because they just see a damaged book.
Exactly. But place those exact same dictionaries side by side, however, and everything flips.
Because of the direct comparison.
Yes. When people can compare them directly, they suddenly realize that 20,000 words is twice as many as 10,000 words. So the torn, larger dictionary now gets a bid of $27, and the small, pristine one drops to $19.
It's wild. The side-by-side comparison forces the brain to care about an attribute, the word count, that you didn't even notice or care about when looking at the item in isolation.
But how does this actually affect someone listening to this on, like, a random Tuesday?
Well, think about your morning routine. Let's say you go to your local coffee shop and your usual order suddenly jumps to $2.89.
Okay.
You instantly compare that price to the $2.50 you paid yesterday. You get angry, you feel ripped off, you maybe even consider writing a bad review.
Guilty.
Right. You are comparing the present to the past. What you should do, logically, is compare the $2.89 to the possible.
They're possible.
Yeah. What else can $2.89 buy you right now today that would bring you as much pleasure and caffeine? If the answer is nothing, then you should happily buy the coffee. But our brains fight that logic because we are anchored to the past.
Okay, so let me just summarize the sheer amount of damage here.
It's a lot.
Our brains literally cannot define happiness objectively. Our present physical and emotional feelings entirely override our predictions of the future. We treat long-term time like a spatial buffet, which tricks us into choosing inferior variety. And our comparisons are anchored to the past rather than the possible.
That's the laundry list, yeah.
So, I mean, is this just a depressing diagnosis? Are we doomed to be miserable and make terrible life choices forever?
Fortunately, no. This is where the research takes a really profound turn. We possess something incredible called a psychological immune system.
Okay, that sounds promising.
It is. We are fiercely biologically resilient. Think back to survivors of devastating natural disasters like earthquakes.
Right.
Studies consistently show that within a relatively short matter of weeks, people who have lost almost everything return to their previous baseline levels of optimism.
Wow, weeks.
Yeah, they adapt, they rationalize, they find new meaning.
Wait, if we are that resilient, why do we walk around so terrified of making the wrong choice or failing?
Because the psychological immune system has to operate unconsciously.
Why?
Think about the mechanics. If you knew consciously that you were going to easily rationalize and recover from failing a massive exam or getting fired, you wouldn't study hard and you wouldn't show up to work on time.
Oh, right, there'd be no stakes.
Exactly. The brain hides its own resilience from our conscious imagination to keep us motivated. The problem isn't that we are fragile. The problem is that when our frontal lobe time machine imagines a negative future, it fails to factor in this psychological immune system. We imagine feeling the initial acute shock of the earthquake forever.
So we overestimate how bad the bad things will be and probably overestimate how good the good things will be.
Precisely.
So what does this all mean? How do we actually make good decisions for our future selves if our internal machinery is this compromised?
The ultimate data-backed solution requires a massive slice of humble pie. It's a concept called corrigibility.
Corrigibility. That sounds like something you need a medical prescription for. What does that actually mean in this context?
It basically means the capacity to be corrected. It requires you to admit that your internal imagination is fundamentally flawed, and therefore you must allow your predictions to be corrected by external data.
External data.
Yes. In practice, this means you have to completely stop using your imagination to predict how a specific future will feel.
Stop using it entirely. Just like turn off the daydreaming.
When it comes to making major life choices, yes. Instead, you use a technique called surrogation.
Surrogation. Okay, how does that work?
If you are deciding whether you want to become a corporate lawyer in Texas, do not sit in your living room and try to imagine what being a lawyer in Texas feels like.
Because my brain will mess it up.
Right. Your imagination will omit the boring details, project your current mood, and ignore your psychological immune system entirely. Instead, you find an actual corporate lawyer living in Texas, and you ask them how they feel.
Oh. You literally outsource your imagination to someone else's lived reality.
Yes. You consult the only valid data source available, someone who is currently occupying the state you are considering.
That is so brilliantly simple.
It is. But this raises an incredibly important question. If surrogation is the ultimate shortcut to happiness, why don't we do it naturally? Why do we stubbornly trust our own flawed daydreams over the lived experiences of others?
I mean, because we all think we're special snowflakes.
Partly, yes. But it goes deeper into how cultures survive through something called super-replicating false beliefs.
Super-replicating false beliefs.
A society functions because we all collectively buy into certain ideas, even if the data prove they are totally false.
Oh, I see where this is going. Like the cultural promise that endless wealth generation automatically equals endless happiness.
Exactly. Adam Smith, the father of modern economics, noted this centuries ago. If everyone stopped working once their basic needs for food and shelter were met, the economy would collapse.
Right.
Society needs you to keep striving, buying, and working. So the belief that money buys endless happiness replicates like a virus. It is a necessary illusion that keeps the factories running and the stock market moving.
But the data tells a completely different story.
Completely different. Wealth has severe declining marginal utility. Once you are lifted out of poverty and securely into the middle class, an extra $1 million does not buy you 1 million extra units of happiness. Not even close.
But if you used surrogation, if you went and asked a billionaire if their third yacht made them fundamentally happier than their first house, they would likely tell you no.
Right. And if we listen to them, the economic engine would slow down. So our culture actively discourages surrogation. It infects us with this super replicating belief that we are unique and that if we just get the money, we will be the ones to finally unlock endless joy.
Wow. So we're surrounded by a living library of billions of people. Your imagination is just a flawed funhouse mirror, heavily warped by, whether you had a good breakfast this morning or not.
Yep.
If you really want to find out what will make you happy, you have to talk to someone who is already standing in the future you are contemplating.
It requires us to abandon our ego, to admit that we are far more similar to our neighbors than we are different, and that our own minds simply cannot be trusted to predict our own joy.
Which brings us to the end of today's journey. Huge thanks to you for breaking down the incredible, sometimes hilarious, and deeply relatable flaws of the human frontal lobe.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
So let's recap the main takeaways for you listening. Beware of your present state hijacking your future plans. Do not grocery shop hungry, or full for that matter.
Never.
Remember that variety over long stretches of time is a trap. Eat the partridge every month if it's a 50 out of 50. Always compare your choices to the possible right now, not the past. And most importantly, trust the lived experiences of others over the Hollywood movie playing in your own imagination.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Think about the biggest decision you are facing right now. Maybe it's a career change, a cross-country move, or a relationship milestone. You are making that choice right now on behalf of your future self. But based on everything we've unpacked today, your future self is practically a stranger to you. They are someone with a totally different baseline, a different context, and a powerful psychological immune system you aren't even accounting for. Remember Lori and Reba, the conjoined twins?
Right.
The medical experts looked at them through the broken time machine of their own imaginations and saw only tragedy. but the trends themselves lived in a reality of joy. So before you lock in that big choice for your future, ask yourself, are you consulting the reality of someone who's already living that life, or are you just blindly trusting a stranger in your own head? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning your world, and we'll catch you next time.